Hello, welcome everyone. Today we are going to talk about how to get started with open source and contribute on open source projects so that we can learn and grow. So today's agenda we will start with how to select an organization where to contribute to. Avinil, take it away.
Hello everyone. Our first focus is how to select organization before you start contributing in a project. It may be your Google Summer of Code, it may be Google Season of Docs, and I'll just share my screen. So yeah, the first step to select an organization is to decide what tech stack you want to contribute in. So some of you may have a preferred tech stack like C, C++, or maybe Node, or maybe any other framework you can choose. So
I guess there are some connection issues. Well,
So basically, when you want to choose an organization, the first step you should do is to go to any webs, go to Google and just try to look for an organization that you're interested in. Now, most of the people are not aware of what organizations exist. So a nice way to get aware is try using more and more open source software. As you use more and more open source software, you get to know a lot about how these softwares work, and you'll find alternatives to proprietary software. So in my case, I started using Linux full time, and because of that, I had to look for alternatives to other software like Photoshop, Illustrator, and Microsoft Office. So I got to know about GIMP, Inkscape, and LibreOffice, and softwares like Penpot and Greta and stuff like that. So a nice way to choose an organization would be to start using open source software. Avesa, do you want to add something to that?
using actually yeah using open source software is very crucial, like because the whole point of open source software is to use it, right? That's why they are made. So if you learn about them and use them firsthand, then it would be very easy for you to contribute and understand the concepts that are being utilized. Now let's say you want to contribute to like a repository, right? So let me just present my screen. Okay, Parth. Okay, good. So first we look at the GSOC organizations. So we will go to summerofcode.google.com, and then we will search for organizations. Now you can see the search bar here, right? And you may have a preferred tech stack. So you just search that tech stack, and now Perth path you can search C++. So let's say we are more experienced in C++, and then we will get organizations that use such. Now we will find our organizations here, and you can contribute to any of that. Now mostly you can switch it up a bit, so not all organization use just this tag. So you can also do C/C++, and you can open Inkscape, and now you can see that C/C++ and Python 3. So yeah, it depends, because if you have already have a skill in that language, it would be very easy to you to get started with things. It's not necessary that you know these language, but yeah, it helps. So now you can have other topics, right? Vector graphics. So let's say you don't have any knowledge about C++, but you do have knowledge about vector graphics, design, web, and things. So you can also contribute to that. So let's. So these are the kind of projects that are there. let's say you want to you have already you already chose an organization, and now you want to contribute to uh, ideas. Now the first thing is, how do you get the ideas? Avinal, you are back, so anything you would like to add?
Okay, so I would just want to add that one website, and that will help you choose your organization easily, because as you can see here in the GSOC official website, you cannot see all the tech stack and what year those organizations have participated in one go. But there is one another website that is also an open source project. Let me show you, and that website you can use. This is the website gsofforganizations.dev, so everyone can see my screen, right?
Yeah, it is visible.
Yeah. Okay. So once you go to this website, you will be able to filter your organization on the basis of year they have been selected in, or the categories, or the technologies, or even the topics. So let's say I want to go for Java project. So you can just click on Java, and all the organizations that have some kind of Java technologies used in them, they will be listed here. So, and also at one go, you can see all the technologies here. Let's say Java, JavaScript, web services. But as you can see in the official Google Summer of Code website, you cannot see all the technologies, or not even the topics. So this website is very useful. We will provide you the link in the chat. And so that is one thing I wanted to add. Yeah, go ahead. Okay.
So next topic on our agenda is what to do after selecting a project, right? So
So
Parth,
yeah, so can you please show my screen? Okay, so now moving on, let's say you have an organization, you have gone through your interests, and you have also selected an organization. But how do you actually start contributing, and how do you get an idea? So here's what I did, and hopefully you will see and understand. So my first contribution was not even a coding contribution. If you look at the changes I made, I just added one line, and that was this one. And I'll explain you in a very hand-wavy way that what I did. So there was a text box whose text should not have been editable. So all I did was went to to a software called Glade, which is used to make UI programs, and I just unchecked it. And that was the only thing I did, and I made a merge request, and it was merged. So that was my first ever contribution to any open source project. And after that, I started looking for other ideas, and I started uh, looking for what more could have been done. So the next pull request I made was to add a search bar to the preferences in Inkscape. Now, this I got this idea when I was trying to learn Inkscape and I wanted to change the theme. And what you had to do earlier was you have to search through all of these categories and just try to find a theme. So what I did was I just added a search bar, and it seems very tough. And Inkscape uses a library called GTK, and thanks to that, it is actually very tough to do that. But luckily, I found a tutorial and which tried to do exactly the same thing. So I tried to copy that, and I made a very basic version of this, and I made a pull request. After that, a lot of people saw this, and a lot of people reviewed, and they gave their suggestions. And it took me about 1.5 months to get this to work. But after I had done that, it was merged, and it was actually a very email received and it was released in the next version of Inkscape. So if you're using Inkscape, you can go to the preferences, and if you're using the latest version, you'll find a search bar there. So you can see like my first merge request was just one lines, and this one was about 500 lines or so. So it took some time, but what I want to say is that you shouldn't really get worried about not making significant changes. Even if you're making a small change, then the next thing would probably be bigger, and the first commit you make would be the toughest commit that you will ever make. So, and after that, things become a little bit easier. Now, I'll talk a little bit about how I got my GSOC idea, and it is also a nice way to find ideas, and that is to go through issues and feature requests. In my case, I went through all the forums, and this is a feature request from the year 2007, and it is about smart guides in Inkscape. So I read through this and I saw that people wanted this, and so that was my GSOC project. That was to add smart guides to Inkscape. As you can see, there's a little demo of that. But as a general suggestion, I would recommend, if you're looking for an idea, go through all of the issues and feature requests in your project and try to just find things that you can implement. And if you look at it, it's about 4,000 lines, so that's not a big deal. But once you get an idea, it is not very difficult to try to implement that. You can ask the community for help. And coming to community, you can see like there are different channels in the Inkscape IRC. There's a UX channel where people discuss their UX ideas, and there's a development channel where people talk about code related stuff. So a nice thing would be, if you're new to open source, go to any community IRC and try to introduce yourself. And also, if there are other people, then try to help them. If they have a question and you know the answer, do help them. It only increases your reputation. Um, if anyone has something to add to this.
A frequent question people ask is, how much should one be aware of the code base? So it's not like you should not be aware too much of the code base. You have to know the basic programming and basics of the language or the tech stack that is being used. That's the most basic thing. You can build up your skills. So for, if a issue takes, like for an experienced developer, it takes one day. So you might take 2 weeks, 3 weeks, but yeah, after some time you will get adapt and working on the issues. So yeah, don't be disheartened that it's taking too much time. You don't have to know too much. It's just a process of learning. The next
Yes.
thing is, you must follow the process of installing and building the things so that you can compile your code and make the changes you want to make. So like most of the repositories, like Inkscape repository, Parth, can you open it? Contributing.md. So most of the projects do have a contributing.md Inkscape, and it sums up everything about what you need to know about developing the application itself. Most of the projects will have this, or you can visit their website. Inkscape also has such website, and it helps you to set everything up and develop the project. So yeah, after you get it building, what you must do is look for an issue, small issue, and just fix it. Try to fix it. It may take some time, but yeah, perseverance is the key. So like you can see how to build Inkscape and everything about architecture and things. You might have to learn some things. So it's not just like you drop in, make some changes. So you might have to learn many things before you can get started. But yeah, that's the process. Moving to
Yeah.
the next agenda. How
I just
to Okay, so
I just wanted to give an example of what you should know. And the thing is, for example, we used C++ in Inkscape. And C++ is a huge language. There are lots of features, and a lot of organizations restrict themselves to specific subset of C++ features. So for an example, in Inkscape, we don't use exceptions, we use assertions. So it's all about, you won't be at a stage where you can say like, now I know C++ and now I can contribute to any project. You go into a project not knowing anything, and then you spend some time and then you learn things and then you start picking up. So don't worry if you don't know something, just try and understand what they have done and try to follow that.
So the next point on the agenda is how to make a contribution. So as you said, you start small, you don't start very big. So you just get hang of things, and then you always ask in the community for help if you get stuck for too long. So now we just want to check getting help with the community. How do you get help with the community? So most of the communities have a chat. So as you can see currently it's Inkscape chat, and they use something called a Rocket Chat, which is also a GSOC project. So now you can see in the Rocket Chat there are several channels. Now the channels are related to development team where you discuss purely development stuff. The channels are for UX team where you discuss how to design things so that it's easily accessible and understandable by the users, and how to make beautiful UIs and things. So there are many projects which are not Inkscape, so they have other categories like, so there might be some project that is dealing with Python things, or JavaScript side of things. So yeah, so you can see Zulip.
I'm sorry, I don't have a ID for that, but it's just an example.
Sure, no problem. So most of the things like you for most of the organization you can find chat, and where do you find this chat link? So you go to the page of the Google Summer of Code page of that organization. So go to the Inkscape GSOC, fifth tab. Okay, and in top you can see there are mailing lists and chat. So chat is like normal, you know what is a chat, like WhatsApp. Mailing lists are like people subscribe to that mailing list, and all people in that mailing list get same messages. So it's like group chat. A mailing list is mostly like a group chat, but on emails. So it's a remnant of past, but yeah, it's very efficient because you don't have to be online like in chat. On mailing list, if you send a message you can be sure that it is seen, as there are not many messages like there are in a chat. So yeah, get involved with the community. That is a must if you want to get in the open source, so you can contribute and collaborate with other people. Now we will the next point of our agenda is types of contribution. Abhinal.
Yeah, hello. Um, um, is my screen visible?
Yeah.
Okay, so there can be many type of contributions. So this is not only restricted to you can say code contributions. In an open source project, there will be a uh, lot type of issues. It can be bug, it can be enhancement, or it can be documentation. You can see all the types of issues by going to levels, and there it will be like what kind of issues it is. So there are a lot of labels, and you can start with anyone. It doesn't matter if you start with the coding one or if you start with the documentation one. So like let me show you my first pull request for the GSOC. So this is not at all a code contribution. This is something related to CI/CD. So this is one type of contribution, and then this is a PR, and this PR reflects the original issue. So you can go to the issue, and there will be everything about those issue, whatever issue, like what they want you to do, what they want you to improve, or what they want you to fix. So this is a type of, you can say, kind of code contribution. On the other hand, you can open your issue of your own. Like if you want some feature to add in a project, or if you have noticed some bug. So let's say there is some bug. So someone has added this bug, and you can. This is also a type of contribution. Or on the third side, you can also contribute to the documentation. So in my project, there is not much documentation level, I think so, but uh, in most of the open source projects, there will be documentation also. And one more thing you can do, that after all these things, pull request, issue, and documentation, there is helping in the community. So if you help each other in the community, maybe I can show you an example. Just give me a minute. Okay, I think it's visible now. Yeah. So in part, just he was showing you how we get help from the communities. So it is not always required that you answer to each and every question and comment to each and every question. But whenever there is something that some people can help with, like if there is some question, you are first in the community, you are just starting to contribute in the GSOC, and there will be a lot many people who have just joined the community. So if you have joined first, it's just a good gesture that you help other people understand how the community works if you have already understood it. So that thing is also a contribution. Let's say someone has asked a question in issue, so you can reply over it and help them. So in that way, it will help you understand what other people are facing. So if you ever face a problem, you'll be able to find it, and it will also show the mentors that you are dedicated to the organization. So those are all the things I think you should take care about type of pull contributions. So I will summarize it once more. First can be pull request, that is either a existing issue or a new pull request, and then you can open your own issue. It can be bug or enhancement or a new feature. Then it can be documentation. Documentation is simply a README or a proper documentation it may be. And by documentation, I did not mean the GSORT part. GSORT is fully related to only documentation. No, it's common for everything. Like whatever program you are focusing on, you can go and contribute to the documentation. So documentation may be this README, or some of the documentation will be in wiki, or others will be on their website. So you can do anything, and at last helping each other in the community. So don't be competitive from the day one. The time will come when you need to be competitive. Be helping to each other, and that's a very good way to get blended in open source community. Yeah.
One thing I would like to add that it's not like you just have to do it for GSOC, right? In if you go in the route of being a developer, then you will have to use open source software. It might be a library, it might be another server, it might be any other tool. So you will have to use such tools, and like you can use Ceph, you can use Debian for your servers. So you if you get experience with open source, how to engage with open source people, that would be very helpful in the future prospects. You will not be stuck for as long as other people, because you already know how to ask questions, how to get involved. If you want to fix something, how to fix it yourself. Because currently what we think is like, you don't if you don't use open source software, what you think is, if you want a feature, you can't get it. But if you are very familiar with open source, then you have an idea that if it's not there, you can add the feature yourself and not get stuck for too long. This skill have been very helpful, and after GSOC also, it would be very easy for you to get started with things. So next point on our agenda is ideas for proposal, how to get them, and choosing an idea from existing ideas. Parth?
Yeah, we've discussed this actually. So as I said earlier, that you should look for other issues and feature requests mainly. That is a very nice way to get ideas. Also, a lot of organizations have a thing called roadmap, where they list what they want to add in their projects in the future. So do have a look at that. That is also a nice collection of ideas there. And specifically for GSOC, all the organizations have a list of potential projects and who is going to mentor you. So look there also. You will find all the ideas that you have and all of the mentors. And have interest in a particular idea, then uh, to try to contact your mentor.
One thing I would like to add is that if you use the application, right? If you use the thing, like if you use Inkscape, then it would be very easy for you to come up with ideas because you already know what the application is lacking. So yeah, if you use open source software, like we mentioned earlier, it would be very easy for you to come up with ideas. Next is most of the organization list their ideas on their GSOC page, as Avinal is showing there. So yeah, so you can pick something from there. However, it is counted in your favor if you bring your own idea. It's not necessary, but it would be favorable for you. So if you have your own idea, surely pursue that. Now, next point on our
I
agenda
would
is,
like to add
oh,
something.
sure.
Like we didn't tell you where to find exactly look for ideas. So if you go for any organization, so here it will be a link, a view ideas list. You can just go here, and all the ideas for that particular year will be listed. And it may be year wise, like you can see here from GSOC 14 onwards, they have all the ideas. Even for GSOT, they have ideas. So these are all the ideas. Or other you can see in the issues, like for NRNB, you can see the issues. These all are ideas that has either been implemented or will be implemented. So if you are interested in some of the ideas, you can just start contributing from right now. So that will be a good way to start in GSOC. And yeah, so
Yeah, so you can also see past year ideas because not all ideas are taken, right? So let's say from GSOC 17, idea was not taken by any of the uh, user, sorry, any of students. So what you can do is you can ask on the community, and if that idea is available to work on, and you can start with that idea. So yeah, there are many ideas. Ideas are not in a shortage. So
like here you can see these are all the ideas that got selected. They have updated the list, and at last these were all the proposals that they proposed. So some of them are they have not been selected. So you can again work on that idea and propose in the upcoming year. That's a good way to start for ideas.
So moving to the next point, community etiquettes. Because you are interacting with real people on open source, and mostly because we are not adept of talking to people online. So there are some etiquettes so that your uh, interactions with the community is as good as you are in the real life. So first point is uh, always do not address people with sir and ma'am. That's some college stuff. You act like friends. You are like friends on open source communities. So always use the name. Don't ever use sirs and ma'am because it's a bit strange for the people, and also it establishes hierarchy which you don't want, because so that everyone is treated equally. So yeah, treat people equally and don't use sirs and ma'ams. Now, second sub question is how to ask questions. Avinal?
Okay, so as you can see here, like if my screen is being shown, so one of my friend Omar he has asked question. So first you want to ask yourself, like if someone is asking you a question, what do you expect him or her to explain it to you? So first you want to know the what is the context of the question, what exactly is asking, and then you want to know where this problem occurred, and then you want to know how you can actually see the problem by yourself, like ways to reproduce it. And then at last I want to know that yeah, what are the steps that you tried that didn't solve it, or if it solved it, then partially. So like you can say, see, this is the context of the problem. So he started working on some issues, and he had some steps that to reproduce. He showed the steps that he created something something. So your question should include all those 4 points. Don't ask question like any random things. And before asking a question, be sure you go through the issues that have already been answered, maybe the previous questions. And if you can't find the issue in the community or on the GitHub or on the GitLab, and if it is a general standard question about compilation or installing something, you can just go Google it. Okay, because easier to Google than to wait for someone to answer a standard question. And like if you want to install some software, like let's say if you want to install VS Code for development, so it's a very standard question. You can just go to web and Google it, and there'll be a lot of videos and even blogs that will show you how to install VS Code. So this is the first point. Don't ask any question that are Googleable. First, Google it and find some way to do it yourself. If you can't find it, then go to community server. See if that question has been answered already. You can search for keywords. Let's say I can search for PHP's issues, whatever issues related to PHP. So most of the thing you will find here. I can search for installation, UI installation issues, and there will be all the issue related to installation. And if this is not a very new type of issue, it's most probably it will be always be answered. And even after that you can't find that what you are looking for, then put the questions. When putting the questions, make sure you put the question in the right way. You write the context, then write what are the steps to reproduce, and then where exactly this problem occurred. If you have a log file, do attach it, and you can then go away with discussions. You can add screenshots. So make sure you provide everything from your side that will help other person to answer your question quickly without going into so much detail. That is how you ask a question in community.
Very well. All in all, try everything what you can to fix that thing. And if you can't, provide everything you can so that people solving the issues can understand you well. Moving on to the next point, uh, learning things and contributing simultaneously, because open source is all about these things: contribution and learning. Parth?
Yes. So, as I've already told you earlier, that if you are in a community, then try to help as many people as you can. But when you are contributing to a project that has existed for about 10 to 15 years, that project would be using a lot of different technologies. They would be using, if let's say in my example, I was working on Inkscape, and the major chunk of Inkscape is written in C++, but there are Inkscape extensions also which are written in Python. Also, Inkscape uses a build system which is called CMake, which is a completely different sort of meta programming language. And uh, to debug Inkscape, they use a program called GDB and or Valgrind. So these are the things that you would have never heard of, but you will have to understand to the very basics of how they work, and that will make your life a lot easier when you're actually making working on the project and making something meaningful. So this was very simple C++ example, but let's say you are a web developer, and when you try to contribute to any web-based project, you would often notice that they use, instead of using JavaScript, they use TypeScript, and the reason for that is because TypeScript provides much better static type checking, and instead of using simple JavaScript files, they use a build system called Webpack or something like that. So if you try to learn as much as you can about these extra tools and diversify your knowledge, it would be easier and much more better, because these are the technologies that are being used by even by different companies in their own products. So if you have a knowledge of them from now on, it would be of great advantage to you.
Yeah, so that's right. Avinal, do you have something to add?
Okay, so most of the time, whenever you are applying, like we earlier said, like Abhay was telling, that you do not need to all the code base. So you do not need to understand every single line of this project. So it may be possible that your project is not related to all the lines at all. But in most of the cases, understanding what the project is and how it works is a very is very helpful. So in the starting, you only want to know, like if you are working on some issue, then you can like here are all the issues from the Inkscape project, and let's say you have decided to choose work on some basic issue. So at first you can filter for basic first issues. um, I don't know if GitLab has that. So let's say I'm working on this issue, random issue, and there'll be a significant amount of information that can tell me that what this issue demands, like what are the files that need to change, and if it is not mentioned here, you can always ask. You can always ask people that, oh, I'm not understanding this, can you help me with it, or can you explain the issue little bit. So once they explain it to you, your first step would be go to the repositories and search for the specific files, specific lines of code that will be used in that issue. And while searching for those lines, you can also see that what others file are being used for. So that is how you navigate to a code base. And then again, you don't know everything in the start. So like in the Inkscape, I think they are using some GTK and C++. So although you know fine amount of C++, it is not always expected that you know everything. So you can read about GTK and then learn about it, practice it, and that is how you can contribute and learn alongside. There may be some other technologies that you never used of. Like in my case, it was PHP. I never had PHP, like I never used PHP. But in the later stage, I learned PHP, like in my last you say in the second month of my GSOC, and then also it was fine. So you do not need to know everything, but persistence is the key. Once you start learning, don't stop, and just keep learning and contributing. That will help you a lot.
Very well.
Okay.
So next point on our agenda is how to tackle competition. So, in my opinion, you should not focus too much on the competition. You should be grateful that there are many people who you can work with. So yeah, so you can reach out to your like peers on how so they can help you out too. So it's not like a battle royale. So you can help each other win. So that was my experience. Avina, would you like to add something?
So you see, whenever you are going for an organization, and the first thing they want to say is how much uh, how much contribution you can give to them, like how much you can contribute to the project. Most of the organization, they won't focus that if you are only here for GSOC or Outreach or GSOT. they will focus more if you are here for a real contribution. So, but for some organization, it may be how many pull requests you have made or how many issues you have created. So that these all factors, they will increase your chances to getting selected and make you more competitive from others. So the best strategy is just keep contributing, and if you keep contributing, there will obviously you will have more number of pull requests and issues than others. And yeah, again, the contributing doesn't mean you are only focusing on pull requests and issues. It may be you are helping other people in the communities also. So these all counts whenever you are looking for competition. Uh, let's say nobody wants to select a person who just came 2 days before and contributed nothing and just wrote a proposal. So you can get rejected in the first look. But if you have contributed significantly, even if you have helped someone in community, they will at least see what ideas you have. So keep contributing, be persistent and keep contributing. That will clear your competition. Yeah, okay.
So yeah,
So
so let's just wrap it up and
uh, I think
just
we have some questions.
sorry, I messed up. So let's just recap a fine one. So you don't need to focus too much on competition. Focus much on contribution. So yeah, you must contribute all you can and keep it interesting, right? You don't have to grind yourself to death. So you just want to keep it interesting. That's why we are doing open source. And now we have some questions that we got from Google Forms. So first question is, how deep understanding should I have if I'm a beginner at open source or just a beginner in general, for example, web development? So Parth.
So, most of the times, if you know the basics of a language, basics being you can understand, you have followed any basic tutorial on YouTube and completed it, that should be fine. But don't expect that you will go in and know everything. That will just not happen, and that is not possible. So, the best way is to just download the code base and try looking at it. And as you find things that you don't know, try to Google them and understand what they are and why they are being used.
Yeah, that is Google is your best friend in whole of the development world, not just open source. So yeah,
And the best
uh,
thing about Google is that it will not judge you no matter how dumb a question you ask. So
yeah. So always prefer Google, best search engine. You can also use Brave, DuckDuckGo, anything. Not being opinionated, but yeah. So now we go to how to contribute to open source. Another question: how to contribute to open source? If I'm using Git and I'm also good at ML and front end development. So yeah, sure. As you mentioned, two technologies, ML and front-end development. There are ML libraries, there are ML users. So libraries are like ML Pack, where they provide and scikit-learn and other things, which provide others ML features. So you can contribute to them. Uh, ML, some organizations use ML. They don't actually make ML things, but they use ML. So yeah, you can go in them also. As we mentioned that you can search on the Google Summer of Code site, so you can also find that way. You can also search on GitHub if you because there are many programs apart from GSOC. And generally, if you are involved in open source, yeah, there are many opportunities further and front end development. So yeah, sure, there are many repositories, you can search them and GSOC. So yeah, front end development, there are also many opportunities. How much should
uh,
one be aware of code base? Yeah, that this is taken.
yeah, I
We
think
have
we've
already
taken this.
So are there changes that a person who
chances.
starts are there chances that a person who starts contributing in November 21 can clear GSOC in 22? Yeah. According to me, yes, because I started contributing in Inkscape in about February 2020, and it was, yeah, the GSOC was cleared. So November 21 is very to have too much time. You can look for you can look for organizations that have appeared many times in the past. So as Vinal mentioned, a site, and you can be rest assured that those organizations will be selected again. So yeah, if you work hard, you can surely crack GSOC in 2022.
One thing I want to add, like, don't go for just a single organization. It may happen that that organization was not selected this year. So, for the safe side, you can always go for two organizations, at least two. And
Ne-
this is true for any other programs also. Like, even in the same organization, you can apply for two different projects. So yeah, keep that in mind. If you have a goal that you have to be selected, then don't go for a single option.
I would
So
just like to add something that GSOC allows you to have at least at most three proposals. That means you can apply for three different organizations. So I think two is a nice number. If you go for three, then you won't get a lot of time to dedicate to each and every organization. And that way, you won't be able to contribute sufficiently in any of the three. So I think two is a good number, and have one organization that is your primary and the other that is secondary. So if you start looking from right now, then I think it is very possible that you can clear it, because I've seen people start in January and get selected. So that should not be a problem.
yeah. So next question is, how many contributions required to get selected in GSOC?
So each organization has their own criteria. In my case, Inkscape had at least three merge requests, but I would uh, recommend you to read their GSOC guide, and if they have a criteria to be mentioned there.
Okay, yeah.
For me too, I want to add something in this question. Uh, so it's not about only contributions. It's also about how much knowledge you have about that particular idea you want to propose, and how much competency you have shown in your proposal. And about proposal, we are having an event today, and we are having a guest. He will be explaining how much contributions and how what type of contributions are exactly useful for your selection. So please join that tomorrow.
In short, contributions depend on organization to organization, and you can join the talk tomorrow, which which goes much more in detail of how to get selected. So, one more questions. The last question we have: should I completely focus on open source or do some projects of my own? So in my opinion, you should you should always make projects of your own, because as you know, open source projects are pretty huge. Inkscape code base, if you want to download it, it's about 1.5 GBs, and you can't learn much in such a large project, because you need to build from start and do some foundational work, because you can only build a strong building upon a strong foundation, right? So when you start from your own projects, you get to know everything about how do you compile these things, and how the code is written from the start, how things are work. So you will learn much more in the start about the basic things. After that, you pick up open source very easily, because if you don't have a base, you can't pick things up. So yeah, you should start with some making some projects, and that can give you a head start when you start with open source softwares.
And it's nice to have your personal projects in your GSOC proposal, because that shows that you can actually write meaningful code. That adds credibility to both your GSOC proposal and also to your resume.
Okay, we have one more question from the chat. When can we start searching for Arneson and start contributing? So the first thing I want to say is it's never too late to start contributing and it's never too early. If you start now, that is also fine, and if you start 3 months just before the proposal, that is also fine. But for the safe side, if you are really passionate about open source, I will say just start now. If you start now, you will be able to go into much detail for everything. Like you can develop some strategies for your contributions, or you can develop some ideas. You can go through all the previous year projects and like related to your tech stack and find something that you may propose if that organization is selected. And even if that organization is not selected, you can always have other options if you start now. uh, but yeah, it's on you whenever you start contributing.
I would
Organizations will be
recommend,
organizations
yeah,
will be announced in February. Until then, you can search for yourself.
I would recommend like right now just open a new tab and start searching. That would be the best.
Yeah. So any more questions do we have?
I
And
guess that is all.
even if you want to repeat us on something, do ask in the chat. We will be happy to clear your doubts.
Let's just wait a minute, then we can wrap up. Also, never be the one that asks, "What should I make?" off the bat. Always do some research and select a project first. Okay. If you don't select a project, at least select an issue that you want to work on. Like you are not too much sure about what you will make in GSOC. Don't care about that. Just start with some issue that you can fix or some feature that you can add, and that can help you get started very easily.
And in the meantime, I want to tell you all that we have already created a channel in the club named Open Source Men. So if you have already selected an organization, or if you are interested in contributing to any open source program, just select an organization, or if you have any issue, just put in that channel, and we all participant, we will try to help you out. So that's something. And yeah, please do attend the tomorrow session. It will be very important, and because it's all about the proposal you're gonna get, how proposal helps you get selected, and what should be there in your proposal. So to attend the tomorrow session.
Also, it would be from a mentor's perspective. So he will be probably the best person to tell you what you should add in your proposal. So it would be a nice idea to attend that.
Okay, so we'll be wrapping it up here, and thank you all for joining. And as always, you are free to ask your queries in the Glug channel. Okay.
Thank you all. Have a nice day. Bye bye.